If you love digging deep and doing research, then being a support engineer is something you should definitely check out. The way that developers communicate and support engineers communicate is a little bit different. I ask a lot more effective questions.
Are you eager to learn more about job roles in Z, but don't know who to ask? We'll bring in the professionals and let them tell us how things really are. Welcome to My Mainframe Job with a Support Engineer.
Hey everyone, my name is Janay Johnson and I am a support engineer at IBM.
What is a support engineer?
So a support engineer is pretty much a person who takes in customer issues, and we're in charge of guiding the customer to a solution.
How did you come to be a support engineer in the mainframe space?
I can tell you that when I finished school, I didn't know that a support engineer was something that I could be. But after 4 internships at IBM, I was definitely looking to be brought on full-time, and the support engineer role was open, so I kind of spoke to my manager about it, and I love solving problems, so it kind of seemed like a natural fit for me coming out of school. Yeah, I had 4 summer internships and like 2 or 3 co-ops, which is like a summer internship, and then it extends into the school year where I can work and get paid while I'm at school, which was great.
What do you like most about your job?
I would say my favorite part about my job is the fact that I get to solve a different problem every day, and a lot of times it's multiple problems in a day that vary from severity level, so I could come in and not know what I'm going to be doing that day, which I think is pretty cool because I'm kind of a person who likes to have some excitement in her day, so I think doing mundane things like day in and day out, I get bored easily. So I really like that I can walk in the door and not necessarily know what I'll be working on. It's pretty cool.
What skills do you need to become a mainframe support engineer?
I think that the most important skills you should have to be a support engineer would be communication, would be number 1. In my case, when I became a support engineer, I came from a development background. So the way that developers communicate and support engineers communicate is a little bit different. But day in and day out, you're gonna have to lean on your team because not one support engineer will know everything about everything. So you have to be able to communicate what the customer is seeing, like the issues, and try to debug it and work with your team to get an answer if you don't know that answer. So definitely communication.
What are the differences between various levels of support in IBM?
Level 1 is typically like the first line of interaction that a customer has with IBM support if they open an issue with us, right? So level 1 is basically like a router for a problem. So they basically interface with the customer. They might find out some preliminary information like what product the customer is having trouble with, or collect some preliminary doc like logs. And then from there, they put it onto a queue for level 2 to pick up. So when I get into work, I'm taking a look at the queues of calls that have already been sorted for me, so to speak. So level 2 then comes in, they look at the queue, they select the problem they want to work on, and then from there we run most of the diagnostics, right? We could either talk to the customer, collect more information like logs, dumps, traces, things like that, and hopefully we hope that we can kind of answer the customer's question or solve their issue at level 2. Level 3 usually comes in if there's like a bug in the code or something that needs to be changed with our product. So level 3 is basically like a developer. So I would contact level 3 if I'm like, hey, we've gathered some documentation, this customer is having a problem that we need to change on our end. So level 3 will take it and then most likely make some change to our code. And that's kind of how we separate out the 3 different levels.
Can you walk us through the support process when the customer reaches out with a problem?
Sure. So if I'm a customer and I want to reach out to IBM support, basically what happens is I write up the problem I'm having, I give as many details in a description that I can, and then I try to categorize my problem by severity. So I say, hey, severity 1 is like, this is a hot problem, like my system is down, I need IBM to call me in the next 30 minutes, to severity 4. So I kind of like to dictate how big my problem is. From then, I submit an electronic ticket. If I'm the customer, you submit an electronic ticket, And then IBM is then notified, and we come in the picture and help out the customer.
How often do you receive multiple requests about the same problem?
When it comes down to receiving multiple requests for a problem, I just got finished having something like this. I wouldn't say it happens extremely often. Sometimes two different customers using the same product might hit the same kind of issue, right? So they both open a case at the same time. I don't think it happens super often, but we do have like a reservoir of problems. So I think customers will always have similar issues that they did like maybe 2 years ago, just because that's the nature of the way people are. But it doesn't happen too often.
Does a support engineer have the ability to remotely diagnose a customer mainframe?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of our job. So support engineers end up collecting a lot of documentation that have to do with a customer's specific mainframe or their specific network. A lot of that might take the form of like dumps. So if the customer hits an error, which we call like an abend, where their program, if they're running like a TCP/IP program, if that completely stops, then we're going to collect information that comes from their specific mainframe. Absolutely.
What would you say to inspire someone else to become a support engineer?
I would say if you're somebody who likes to do something exciting in regards to like solving problems, if you love digging deep and doing research, then being a support engineer is something you should definitely check out. You won't work on anything that's exactly the same, which is pretty cool. And you really get an awesome aspect of like a collaboration between you and your teammates, and maybe some people from across the world who have expertise in a problem that you're working on. So it's a pretty dynamic role. Some people might think you're like stuck at your desk or stuck by your phone, doing some mundane tasks, but that's really not the case. It's a pretty dynamic job.
Do you ever use the skills or methodologies of a support engineer in your daily life?
I think now, since I've started my job role as a support engineer, I think I ask a lot more effective questions just throughout my whole life. I think, especially in school, I didn't necessarily ask a lot of questions. I kind of just studied and got things done. Or in other areas of my life, I just kind of, would throw myself out there and try to maneuver. But now that I'm a support engineer, I find that I ask really effective questions across, my entire life, which is important.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to tell us in the comments which job role you'd like to hear about next.